I'm gonna try to show some empathy. What he said wasn't true. It wasn't the least bit true. I had struggles. Sure, I'd grown up in a safe, stable, middle-class home, and I'd never had to worry about whether my next meal was coming from, and no one really close to me had ever died or gone to prison or anything. Was what he said right? Did I live in too much of a bubble to understand other people? Then, why did you mess up that guy's food? Brandon grunted, looking away. None of your business, but trust me, he deserved it. Brandon grabbed his plate and left without another word. Was there more to him than meets the eye, or was I being taken in? Well, if you're trying to teach the guy a lesson, don't drag somebody else in it. Because, I'm sorry, but that is stupid. You may claim that you're not stupid, but that was a stupid thing to do. Your behavior was stupid, because, trying to get somebody else to do your dirty work for you, I'm sorry, that is stupid. Maybe, now, perfectly smart people do stupid things, so I can give you the benefit of the doubt and say you're a smart guy who did a stupid thing, but a lot of what you're saying is not very logical. Therefore, what am I supposed to do with my assessment of your intelligence? Like, what do you expect me to do here? You're not really helping me. I didn't know anymore. If Brendon was responsible for the theft, what could I possibly do? What could I possibly do about it? I was no detective. I couldn't break into a room and search for clues. What clues would be there anyway, especially if he, spent it already? There was only one possibility, and it was a pretty long shot. For now, I needed to get my act together and focus on my finances. What are we gonna do, Flynn? There was one benefit to having everyone in the hostel trying to avoid me. It was easy to get space to myself in the living room. Hey. Alright, not quite everyone. Hey. How are you holding up? I explained the steps I'd taken with my parents and how I suspected that Brendon was behind the whole thing, but couldn't prove it. Danny frowned. Do you want me to lean on him? What? If he's guilty, I can make him confess. You mean you threaten him? He just looked at me. Clearly he was willing to take this further than threats. No, don't. I didn't like Brendon. I might even hate him. But I didn't want him physically hurt. I didn't want to be responsible for making Danny do something like that. Yeah, because I don't think I would be doing Danny any favors if I pushed him over there. I've already lost my job anyway. It's too late to go back to the way things were. Sometimes there's no way to fix everything, right? We just have to deal with what we have. Danny nodded slowly. If that's the way you want to play it. But if he gives you any trouble, if he asks you to do anything, if he bothers you, if he tries to get you alone, you come get me, understand? Don't let him near you. Danny's so protective, I love it. I smiled. It's good to know I have you to protect me. Always. Love that. My knight in shining armor. What I like about Danny is that, yes, he's overprotective, but it seems like he still respects me. Like, he still respects me and trusts me when I tell him to hold off. So, I think that says a lot. I think that says a lot about our relationship. I tracked down James in the hostel lobby. What? Here. This is the money I owe you for this week's rent. And this is the money you're supposedly missing from the till, which I did not steal. Sure you didn't. No, you listen to me. I'm a paying customer now. You can't push me around. I may have spent most of my life too quiet to stand up for myself, but this time I had enough. I never stole from you. I never would steal from you or anyone else. I've already given you the money you wanted, so I've got no reason to pretend that I'm innocent. I am innocent. I was fixing the register drawer because Brendon told me you said it was broken and I had to fix it. And if you didn't know the drawer was broken, how come Brendon did? If you've got that CCTV footage, look further back. Look what happened before I fixed the register. I don't take orders from you. Do you want the real thief to be under the roof and get away with it? I don't know what actually happened. I have no way to find out. But maybe you do. That's all I could do. I don't know if it could do any good, but I had to try. Good job, Flynn, for standing up for yourself. And I think he did it in as respectful a voice as possible, especially since James was being ridiculously unreasonable. Saturday was the last day of formal university classes for the spring semester. Today the reading period began, and the library filled with students revisiting for their exams. I had a little bit of catching up still to do. Our beach trip meant I had missed a class, and then the fallout from the theft had been a huge distraction. Still, I wasn't going to let a thing like that stop me. Maybe these courses weren't very serious or important for my degree back home, but there was no way I was going to fail. Many of the other hostel residents were now obsessed with the need to study. Danny and Peggy in particular. Mark spent a lot of time in the library anyway, so there wasn't much difference to be seen. Only Ji-Hyo seemed completely unbothered by the impending examinations. I suppose that being an artist made her too mellow to show stress, or else there really wasn't a way to cram for an art exam. The exam period would begin next Monday, and last for a little over 2 weeks. The tests had to be spread out to be sure that no student, whatever their schedule, would have 2 exams on the same day. Yeah, that's smart. I only had 2 classes, so I would be done with everything by the beginning of June. Then I'd have the rest of the month to hang out and finish exploring England. And then it would be all over. 3, 2, 1, go! The flag was waved. Danny and I revved our engines and shot off down the track. In no time, we left the other competitors behind and were neck and neck with each other. You really think you can beat me, Flynn? Danny's voice floated towards me over the roaring wind. I grinned. I know I can beat you. The kart track wove around a hill and through a group of trees, lapping 3 times like a video game. Nice. Danny swerved in front of me, shifting left and right to prevent me from getting a go around him. I love go-karts. I've done go-karts quite a few times, and it's super fun. We rounded a turn, and Danny's high speed caused him to ram into the tires to the opposite end. I and several other people passed him, whooping with joy. I looked back and saw him gritting his teeth, that familiar fire in his eyes. Oh boy. It took about a minute for him to weave back around the other racers and come neck and neck with me. Don't think you can get around me. Danny said nothing, just revved his engines further. We were rounding our turn, so I slowed down to make it. Danny instead sped up and then slammed his brakes and swerved. He drifted through the turn, losing half as much speed as I did, and pulled ahead of me. What? No fair! I tried to catch up to him in the last lap, but it was hopeless. I was as far behind him as the other racers were behind me. By the time he won, he had nearly lapped them. As we crept out of the carts, I pouted. Danny approached me with an easygoing smile. Would you look at that? No fair. I thought you said you wouldn't go all dark-eyed on me. Yeah, well, I couldn't help it. I wasn't about to lose our bet. I really wanted to try that new sushi place. We're still going there. Really? Of course, whatever makes you happy. Danny, you're so sweet. He just wanted to win. He didn't care if we went to the sushi place or not. He just wanted to win and make me happy. But you can bet I'll collect later on tonight. Oh! He smiled at me, and I flushed. Their relationship is so cute. Danny followed me into my room and firmly closed the door behind him, loosening the collar of his shirt. Now look here. I held up my hands, creeping back towards the bed. Oh, I'm looking. Oh, he was already undressed and slowly coming towards me. He took off his shirt and pants and threw a towel around himself. He was already undressing and slowly coming towards me. I grinned, but I tried not to show it too much. I love these little cat and mouse games. I said tonight we're going to play a board game. And I won the bet, so we get to play the game I pick, right? Well, yes. And this is the game I pick. He lifted me in his arms and gently tossed me into the bed. I squeaked as I fell. Not fair. Definitely fair. You agreed, after all. He began removing my clothes and kissing my neck. Well, yes, but... My mind started to fog, and Danny smiled at me. You can't hide what you really want, not from me. I flushed and helped him get the rest of my clothes off. That night was definitely a fun way to relax before final exams. I think Danny had the right idea. You know, get rid of some tension, to clear yourself, clear your head. You know, flush everything out before you start getting to your exams. Late that night, Danny came into my room. How did your test go? He smiled like a shark. I knew you'd do great. You always do. Can't be sure until the results are posted. I'm sure. And how was your day? You know, the usual. I described how Asi had tried to play up to me just to make Brendon jealous, and the way she touched me and the way Brendon and Flynn glared, though his eyes didn't turn as dark as Danny's could. You really like pushing my buttons, don't you? Maybe. How about I push yours instead? I am more than open to the idea. Sometimes it was fun to play with fire. Nice. Pretty hot. So far I haven't been burned yet, so that was it. My exams were concluded. The final grades wouldn't be recorded for some time. I suspected the instructors wanted to sneak in a little vacation before going over the papers, but I wasn't worried. I thought I'd done pretty well. The June sunlight warmed my hair. It wasn't too hot. It was still England after all, but it was nice. The flowers were in bloom, the water's ripples licked at the banks, fluffy clouds sailed by overhead. I had learned to love it here. But soon I would have to leave it all behind. And my boyfriend, too. My boo. What's gonna happen? Oops. A whole week is passing by. The university exam period had concluded. Everyone's tests were done and the semester was officially over. To celebrate, we were having a tiny party at the hostel. Ashley baked a cake and James had even deigned to provide some ice cream. If he'd really wanted to be generous, he could have sprung for us all to party at the Crafty Crown, since he was a friend of the owner, but I knew better than to expect that much. The tension from my betrayal had slowly faded away. The real culprit behind the thefts had never been caught or punished, but it felt like most people had stopped holding it against me. Looking around the room, I realized I had less than 3 weeks left in England. It was almost time for me to go home. All the people that I had met here, all the adventures we had, dinners with Ashley, fights with Angelo, weird conversations with Mark, Peggy's effervescent energy, Danny's guidance, Chi-Hyo's artwork, even Asi and Brendon, even James. Soon I wouldn't be able to see them again. I had seen the same people every day for weeks, and that would no longer be the case. It was a strange feeling, but I was startled to realize that I wasn't all that sad, at least not yet. Maybe it was because I was already detaching myself from them, to some extent. I had come here to broaden my horizons and learn how to live in different ways, to help find out what I wanted to be. Maybe part of me was ready for the next step, the next adventure, the next stage in my life. Well, there were a couple weeks left. Whatever I wanted to get done, I'd better make the best of it, especially with Danny. I hope we'd better be spending like every single waking moment of every single day with him before we have to part ways, which stinks so much, so hard. You ready to go? Danny showed up at my door, looking nice as usual in his well-fitting clothes. He always dressed well. The only exception was when he was working out, or not wearing clothes. Yep. I locked my door and followed Danny out of the hostel, practically skipping with excitement. So what's the surprise? Surely you can tell me that we're on the date. Surely you can tell me now that we're on the date. Be patient, why don't you? We're nearly there. We are? Danny gestured to a little shop in the corner just ahead of us. Cafe. Not just a cafe, the cafe. The cafe where I just first unveiled who I was to you. The cafe where you started to get to know the real me. Huh? Started is right. Man of 1,000 secrets. He waved an impatient hand. Anyway, we're celebrating the start of our relationship here. It's symbolic. I need to talk to you about something. Don't get all nervous. You must have noticed me tensed up. I nodded and took some deep breaths. It's nothing bad, but I thought, well, let's go in. After you. He opened up the door for me with a grand flourish, and I entered, face warm. People were staring throughout the cafe, many women giving me approving nods. I'll get our drinks. You want to grab the table? Sure. In accordance with Danny's symbolic tendencies, I politely asked the couple to move from the table we sat in when we first came to the cafe. Makes sense. It wasn't hard to remember the table, the one right next to the entryway, right up against a window. The couple acquiesced, though I couldn't tell whether it was because I asked nicely or because they could sense something was up. Finally, Danny came around with drinks, handing me a minty mocha. Then yours is, let me guess, the black tea. I might guess that odd black tea thingy? Odd black tea. I like it. They should use that officially in the menus. I'll pitch it to them next time. He winked at me and I flushed again. Not fair. Completely fair. He grinned, taking a sip from his cup. Then he set his hands together on the table and looked at me. Well then, I suppose I should get this started. I nodded hesitantly. What's going on, Danny? Don't scare me now. Right. He swallowed and tugged at the collar of his shirt. I tried to hold back my surprise. Danny was never nervous. Literally never nervous. Even when he told me he was an ex-convict, he didn't seem this nervous. What was going on? Well, you see, I have come to ask you to make a choice. He swallowed again, then interlaced his fingers together. I have come to care about you a great deal. Yes, one might even be able to say that I've come to love you, Flynn. Aww. Oh, wait. Is this... Whoa, wait. He cleared his throat. I opened my mouth, but he gave a short shake of the head. He wasn't finished. In light of this, and in light of my disposition, I feel it is necessary to make this choice now, or at least in the coming few days, before things get out of hand. You know what kind of man I am. You know my tendencies towards jealousy and possession. I'm not proud of them, but you have been willing to accept me as I am. I never want to control your behavior, and I never want to manipulate you or make you feel as though you can't or shouldn't do something. This is exactly what he told me before at the beach place. I believe I already made this clear to you. In order to do this effectively, I have been holding back somewhat. I have been not entirely thinking of you as mine, I suppose you could say. Of course, semantics and all that, but you will never, and can never truly be mine, as you are your own person, but... He cleared his throat again. What I'm asking you to choose is this. Either you leave me now, and we can maintain a relationship as friends, or as nothing, if that suits you better. I don't know if I want that choice. What's the other choice? Or you accept that you are mine, and now and forevermore, and I will follow you and be by your side forever, for better or for worse. That sounded suspiciously like a marriage proposal. So, Flynn, he looked at me, and for the first time in my history of knowing him, I saw fear in his eyes. What do you choose? That sounds like a marriage proposal. You couldn't say the words, Danny. Could you, I guess he's not the get down on one knee kind of person and actually pop the question. Oh, you big lug. I think I've gotten used to you by now, you big lug. Yes, Danny, Flynn will marry you. It sounds a bit like you're proposing to me. Yes, well, he grinned and slipped something out of his pocket. That would be because I am. He slid out of his chair and down onto one knee in front of me. Okay, thank you. Now you're doing it properly, Danny. The people around us gasped. A few women cooed and silence permeated the cafe. Flynn, I love you. Will you marry me and stay by my side forever? I didn't even need to think about it. Of course I will, Danny. I love you too. He beamed. He slipped the ring out of the box and onto my finger, and I pulled him into a hug. The people in the cafe exploded into applause and cheers. The man behind the register pounded his fist on the counter. This would have been a little fast for me, but considering how, you know, I'm like supposed to be moving away, I think I understand. I totally understand why he's trying to do it now than later. Free drink for everyone. Cheers to the happy couple. It's kind of cool that everyone's very accepting of this, and the applause began anew. I didn't know how we were going to manage this. I had a ticket to leave the country in only a week, but I looked into Danny's eyes and he into mine, and I knew that I would be happy with him by my side forever. Oh. At this point, I don't care if everybody else thinks I'm a thief. Whatever. Flynn is still the happiest man alive. The next day, the enormity of the situation began to sink in. Were Danny and I really engaged? What was I going to tell my friends, my family? They knew I was dating Danny, of course, but they didn't know everything about him. Not even I knew everything about him. How soon could we do it? Where would we live? How would we manage? I didn't have any answers. Not yet. Trying to explain this over the phone would be far too stressful, especially when I would be home next week anyway. Right now, I just wanted to spend as much time with Danny as I could. We had more celebrating to do. I wonder how all of my roommates think about this. It would be nice if we got some of the reactions. It was my final weekend at the one hostel. I ran into James in the lobby, shuffling some papers behind the register. Flynn, so, you're leaving on Monday. That's right. He handed the papers to me. It's the long-term leaving checklist. What you have to clean, and so on. Fill out, sign it when you're done, leave them at the desk when you go. That way I don't have to get up early to see you out. God forbid if you have to do any work. If you forget, there's any problems, I'll bill you for it. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm comfortable just leaving this at the desk. Someone might steal it. I glared at him, trying to remind him that I was still mad about that, but he didn't seem to care. Leave it with Danny, then, or Oscar at the Crafty Crown. Fine. Yeah, so. He scratched his armpit, staring at me intently. Would you say you have been satisfied with your stay? No. Overall? Yes. No, I would have said no. Would you recommend this trip to your friends? Sure. I would have said no. What did you like about it? What is the point of all this? Answer the question. I made a lot of friends. The location was great. I made a lot of friends. The location was great. Actually, I'm not gonna burn any more. I'm not gonna burn the bridge more than I have to. I'm gonna be a better man. I'm not gonna say this because it didn't. That's the problem. I want it to be honest. The honest answer is it definitely had its ups and downs. And if I was to give him feedback, he was definitely one of the major downs. But I will say I met a lot of friends. I got to know a lot of different people and made new friends. That was a big deal for me. Why are you asking me this? James withdrew a tape recorder from behind his back and smiled. Thank you for that. It'll come in handy. What? Have a safe trip home. I'll miss having you around. No, he won't. He waved a hand carelessly at me, then left the hostel and headed off down the sidewalk. What a knob. Some people never change. Wait, did I just think knob? I had been in England too long. I was like, I don't know what that means. Apparently it's British slang. What stinks in here? Oh, well, it'll be gone soon enough. Brendon tracked me down in the kitchen during lunch. I glared at him. What do you want? Doing a victory lap? Yes, actually, I wanted to celebrate a successful operation. Some people say crime doesn't pay, but looks like I've proved otherwise again. Does it keep you up at night knowing everybody thinks you're the culprit? Sure, they've tolerated you, but is anybody really still your friend? Certainly more than they are yours. Heh, whatever you say. Anyways, I want to wish you a good trip home. I'm not going to follow you. Personally, I hope I never see you again. Well, Brendon, I mean, good luck to you, because I see a lot of hardships your way if you don't change, and change fast. Adios, amigo. It's kind of annoying that there didn't seem to be a way for you to try to have a route with Brendon that actually made you tolerant of each other, at least. You know, maybe not cool with each other, although that would be awesome if there was a way that you could have had some sort of understanding with your rival. So I feel that that's what's missing here. You know, try to not make Brendon such a one-sided, one-note character. Give you the chance, but it just didn't seem like there were any opportunities for us to do that. Like in Roommates, it seemed like we could get an understanding with Dominic, for example. Dominic was certainly Max's rival. So I was kind of hoping we're going to get the same thing with this game, but it just didn't seem to have it. Before I could sink too deeply to disgust or frustration, though, James entered the room carrying a tape recorder. Huh. Well, what do you know? He scowled and took off after Brendon. I bet James isn't even going to apologize. He's not even going to apologize or give me my money back. Probably not. So, was that jerk finally going to get his comeuppance? It wasn't exactly proof, even if James did have what he said on tape. It wasn't a real confession. Still, what goes around comes around. Brendon could get what he deserved sooner or later. It was the night before I left. We were gathered in the kitchen, yet again eating one of Ashley's dishes. For me, it was probably for the last time. Nobody said anything about it, but it's clear everybody was around for a reason. I was leaving, it was a solemn, subtle celebration for me. Or a funeral, whichever. There might have been a louder party if the rest of the hostel had known about Danny and me, but we were keeping that story to ourselves. Oh, so nobody there knows about the proposal. Only Brendon was missing, and no one knew why. People generally assumed he just didn't like me enough to show up. I wasn't going to waste my time thinking about him anymore. That part of my life was over and done with. We finished our meal. I helped Ashley clean up for the last time. If I didn't have to go back to a room that had been scrubbed clean, with all of my clothes packed away in a suitcase, I could have assumed it was just another day at the hostel. I said goodnight to everybody and climbed the staircase to my room. That was it. Good night, England. See you in the morning. Did you get to spend one more night with your fiancé while you're in England? It was early in the morning that I preferred to be awake, but I had to get going in order to reach Heathrow on time. I stepped out into the hallway, my suitcase and towel. As I did, several doors opened and people popped their heads out, evidently to say goodbye. It was as if they had a tripwire somewhere and I had just rung an alarm. Peggy approached me, rubbing her eyes. I couldn't tell whether they were red because of lack of sleep or because she had been crying. Flynn, thank you so much for coming to the hostel. I know you didn't expect to get a bunch of people like us as friends, but I'm glad you did. It was ace getting to know you, and I'll miss you. You're like a big brother to me. I won't ever forget you. Never give up on trying to change the world, Peggy. We need people like you. She grinned and punched the air. I won't. I passed Angela's room, which was still dark. So, Angelo's still asleep? Should I wake him up or something? No, he left. In the middle of the night, I think. Guess he doesn't like goodbyes. Oh. It was just like him to leave without considering anyone else's feelings. But then maybe I was the one not considering his. Mark came bounding down the hall towards me, chipper as ever even this early in the morning. Hello, Flynn. You're heading out then. He grabbed my shoulders and spread his arms out to the sky. Just think of the world that's waiting for you. Think of the endless possibilities. After all, someday everything will end and you will be forgotten. Isn't that wonderful? Go out and get your dreams. Take all the risks you can. Live a full life. Even if you make a bunch of mistakes, eventually in the long run, nobody will be around to care. I can't imagine a more wonderful freedom than this. Thanks, Mark. I'll miss your inspiring speeches. I'm sure you will. That's why I prepared several of this mixtape for you. He handed me an old-fashioned cassette tape of all things. I didn't know they even made these anymore, but I took it with a smile. Thanks, how thoughtful. I don't think I will ever forget you, Mark. Anytime, anytime. If you need any help, just hit me up. I'm never too far away. He waved and headed back to his room. I wasn't sure I would ever meet a stranger man than that one. Oh, you're leaving. Ashley's eyes filled with tears, and I could find myself in a panic. Don't cry. I'm not... You're not? Well, I am leaving, but don't cry. We'll always have the internet, and our memories. I won't be able to cook for you anymore. You're always my favorite person to cook for because you always said thank you and you helped me with the dishes. You're such a nice person, Flynn. I'm truly sad to see you go. Well, for a moment there, you thought I was a thief, or I was capable of thievery. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. Wait, no, that's what you say to someone who's just been fired. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. I just want you to be happy. I wish you the same. No matter what happens, don't lose your kind heart, Ashley. The world needs more people like you. She smiled, wiping her watery eyes. Thank you, I'll remember that. Hey. Ji-hyo stood in front of me, hands behind her back. I hope you have a safe trip home. I hope everything goes well for you from now on. I smiled. Thanks, Ji-hyo. I hope everything goes well for you too. You're a great artist, so I hope you'll be able to be successful. Ji-hyo stared at the floor and nodded. You know, maybe I don't like art as much as I thought. I stared at her. You're kidding. That's almost all you're ever doing. What are you talking about? It's nothing. Just more drama from the creative types. You know how we can be, always worried about the muse and whatnot. I tell you, something is possessing this girl. She bopped herself on the head with a bright smile. I didn't think she actually felt any better, but I also don't think there was much I could do about it now. I wish I understood her. Well, I wish you the best. I truly think you can succeed. You have talent, passion, discipline, and some sort of demonic possession. That's everything you need. Don't give up, okay? She nodded, her hands behind her back once again. I won't. I was tempted to check and see whether her fingers were crossed, but she went to her room before I could say anything else. I took one last look around the front entrance of the hostel. Last month I was pulled to the dining room and told that I might not be able to live there anymore. At that time I was horrified. I realized the hostel would become more of a home to me than I ever guessed it would. But now that I was leaving, it felt different. It was only a temporary place for everyone, after all. Memories of my bedroom in New York came flooding back to me, and the hostel was left looking shabby and stained in comparison. I had spent months here, studying, working, making friends, avoiding enemies, and now it was time to leave. In the full summer sun, the yard was a lot brighter than it had been when I first arrived, but it was still a mess. James hadn't made anyone tend it recently. I made the short walk from the door to the taxi with my heart in my stomach and tears pricking my eyes. I would miss it here, I really would. Danny helped get my suitcase into the trunk of the waiting taxi. You know, you were the first person I met when I got here. You helped me then and you're helping me now. It seems fitting. Like, book ends. Except this isn't the end. He pulled me in for a fierce, thorough kiss, and I swore I could hear a girl cheering in the background. Ring me as soon as you get home. I need to know that you're safe. I promise. I wanted to kiss him again, but if I didn't get into the taxi now, I might never leave, and that probably wasn't the best way to take the next step in our relationship. And so I opened the car door, and climbed inside. As I did, I saw several heads poke out of the main hostel door. My friend smiled and waved goodbye to me as I left. The taxi driver started the car up, and off we went down the street. Ossie didn't say goodbye to me either. I just didn't notice that. That was it. Goodbye, hostel. Goodbye, England. As the car drove further, my sadness melted away, replaced with a sense of relief. I was going home. The adventure was over. Oh, we're back. I stepped out of the arrivals area, searching the faces, eagerly scanning the outpouring of people. Flynn! I jumped. There they were. Nene and Jinsu, for the first time in a long while. Nene ran to me and jumped into my arms. I laughed as I hugged her, and Jinsu watched on like a proud father. I miss you so much. It's great to be back. Man, I have so much to tell you guys. Nene pulled away from me, mouth hanging open. Talk again? What? What do you mean? Oh my gosh, say something again. What are you going on about? Do I sound weird? You've picked up a little bit of an English accent. How did that happen? What? No, you're loony. I was only there for a few months. I still sound plenty American. No, there's something different in your voice, I can tell. I glanced at Jinsu, who shrugged. She's got a point if you ask me. So tell us about your trip. What'd you do? What'd you learn? And so I tried to sum up everything I could. Everything I had learned, everything I saw, all the friends I made and left behind. Our little boy's all grown up. Nene's eyes filled with tears, and I sighed. Jinsu clapped me on the shoulder. So is there a special someone that you're going to see again? I couldn't help grinning like an idiot. No, like a big, giddy, lovesick fool. Oh my god, you've got a secret. You always look like that when you've got a secret. What is it? Is your boyfriend on the flight? Are you bringing him home? No, nothing like that. Yet? I'll tell you everything later. I promise. Oh, you're such a tease, Flynn. Let me see your hand. Nene grabbed hold of my hand and let out a high-pitched squeal. A ring? You got a ring? Jinsu whistled. You certainly did have a time, didn't you? You could say that. We headed over to the baggage claim area, watching the luggage pour out of the opening like flies out of a frog's mouth. So here's my question. Was it worth all the trouble? Did you find what you were looking for? Oh yeah, was it worth all the trouble? What a hard question to answer. All of the friendships I made, the experiences I had, all of these things were my own doing. If there was anything I regretted not doing or anything I regretted saying, those things were on me. It was within my power the entire time to create an experience that was worth the trouble. So to say that it wasn't would be an admission of failure on my part, and how would I know that it was what it was worth anyway? I had experiences that changed me, changed how I thought of myself as a person, changed who I believe I could become. I was a different person because I had those experiences. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't go back now. And why should I? Definitely. It was definitely worth it. Good job, Flynn. Jinsu grinned and pulled me into a hug. Jinx, that's what I wanted to hear. I'm proud of you. I really am. Ooh, there's your bag. I'll get it for you. Let's head home. I'm sure you're jet-lagged as all get out. Jet-lagged as all get out. Yeah, I just want to sleep. You can figure out where to go from here once you get some shut-eye and some food in your belly. Another chapter of your life closes, but I guess the new one's going to be just as much in your hands as this one, eh? Too much, too heavy for me. Just let me go to sleep. Okay, come on. You can sleep in the car. Together we left the airport. I remembered the night before I left New York for England, all those months ago. I stared up at the ceiling, thinking I was crazy for wanting to go abroad, wondering what the future held for me. Now I had the same feeling, but I no longer felt like the decision was out of my hands. England seemed miles and years away, as if it had been one long dream, as if I had just woken up. The same thoughts as ever churned around my head. What now? What did I want to do with my life? But now I could fall asleep with a smile on my face. I was excited. I couldn't wait to see what the future held for me. That alone made the trip worth it. Aww. Do we get to see the wedding 1 year later? Nice. We entered the doorway of our private resort cabin with long sighs and deep breaths. It smells amazing out here. I never knew the air could be so fresh. It's why I insisted on this island instead of Hawaii or the Bahamas. Everyone goes to those places, but this is more of an undiscovered secret. Is this their honeymoon? Oh, I wish they would have shown an image of their wedding. That would have been really cool. Danny took our suitcases into the bedroom, and I went into the kitchen to search for the glasses. When I found one, I grabbed the water pitcher to fill it, and a golden gleam caught my eye. It was still odd for me to see the large rock on my finger. Danny didn't give me a diamond. There are a dime a dozen, apparently, so instead he fitted my finger with a multicolored opal. The greens, reds, and blues mixed and shifted together in the light. Danny said when he gave it to me that it reminded him of us, and the multiple parts of ourselves that mixed together. At the wedding. Okay, now we're at the wedding. Okay, so this is the wedding. It's a destination wedding. I wasn't sure I'd ever find anyone I could share all of my colors with. I didn't think anybody out there would accept me, nor did I think they should have to go through that. But then you came along and changed everything. You changed my whole perspective. You changed me. You changed my life, and that is why I'm now taking you to be my husband. I don't want to live without you, not even for a second. I smiled and ran a finger over the stone. Then two arms wrapped around me from behind. You like it, I see. You put so much thought into it. How would I not? He rested his head in the nape of my neck and took a deep breath. I'm sure I don't smell too good after the plane. You smell great. You smell like you. But my dear, we have some business to attend to before we can really start to relax. What is it? Do we have to check in somewhere else too? Danny shook his head, a mischievous glint in his eyes. We haven't consummated the marriage. You won't be officially mine until we do so. I flushed. I guess that's right. We should make that happen. I wouldn't want to be somebody else's. His eyes flashed and I grinned. You're a wicked one, Flynn. Nope, I'm definitely not. That's why I'm glad you came to a private island. I won't have to share you with anyone. He bent down and swept me up into his arms. I laughed as I clung to his neck, and he walked me bridal style into the bedroom. Get ready, Flynn. No one will be able to hear you scream in here. Oh, that is amazing. Perfect. I've always been a screamer. And so the rest of our lives began, not with a spark, but with fire. And this fire would never go out. Oh. Oh, that's so nice. Hanabira. I love that. That was great. Awesome. Awesome. And we have this to remember it by. So that was really fun. I did enjoy that. It wasn't a perfect visual novel. The main criticisms that I had with it, I've already spoken about. It definitely could use a lot more dialogue, in my opinion. I think that just in general, most visual novels, I think compared to other visual novels, majority of the visual novels out there, it was on par with it. But that doesn't mean that I have to accept that. I definitely think that this game had the potential to be above and beyond that and give you more dialogue options and choices. And that was a major disappointment. Another disappointment that I had with this game is, again, the whole thing with Arrival with Brendon. It really would have been cool to have had an opportunity to actually try to make some sort of amends with him or some sort of resolution with him. I don't know if there was a way to be able to clear your name with James and the rest of the gang sooner. It didn't seem like there were any choices, unless if it was dependent on whether or not I was supposed to go out with Asi or go out with Jin Hyu. So that could be a possibility. And I felt like this game could also use more gallery images. It would have been really cool at minimum to have had an image of the wedding, or at least a final epilogue image, if not the wedding image. It just seems like there was really only one image, and you only get that image if you're romancing someone. So I think that this game really could have used a little bit more art, because again, other visual novels had a good number of it, and I kind of missed that. Coming Out on Top had a ton, and Coming Out on Top did that excellently, beautifully, and I feel like this one could have done that as well. What I will say, the things I did love about this game is the romance, at least with Danny, the romance was really well done. I enjoyed it a lot. It got pretty hot. It got pretty hot, but it was also really sweet. And Danny's arc, I enjoyed it from beginning to end. I feel like they could have given us options to talk to him, interact with him more prior to us going to the cafe together for him to reveal himself. But I mean, in the end, it ended up working out really well. So yeah, I think Danny's relationship arc was probably one of the best of the visual novels that I've played this year. I think Danny's romance for me beats Max and Rakesh. It beats my Kalina character and Dante. So do I think it beats Mark and Ian? I think it's about on par. Well, no, I think Mark and Ian's was better just because there was that really cool dynamic between the fact that Ian was our best friend and he was supposedly straight, and then he realized something about himself later. But I would say this is a very strong second place for that. Although, let's see, do I like Damien from Seduce Me more? I think it's on par. I think it's a tie. I would put Damien's dating stuff on as a tie with this one. It's hard to really compare the two because you get to have more of the Damien relationship or just the Seduce Me love interest relationship because there was a sequel to the game, a sequel to Seduce Me. So if I was just comparing the first Seduce Me game with this game, I would say the Seduce Me relationships are on par with this one, although I think that presentation-wise, Seduce Me was better because they had more art, more gallery art, and more music. So, sure. You know what? I'll say this. I'll say Coming Out on Top had the best romance for me in a visual novel. Seduce Me had the second best for me, and then this one is a third, which is pretty good. Pretty awesome, since I have played many visual novels. So, you also can have a same-gender relationship with Mark, but I wasn't really all that interested with Mark. He really didn't do it for me. His personality didn't really do it for me. His look, you know, I can recognize that he's a good-looking guy, but it didn't really, you know, I think that Danny by far, the Alistair look was definitely more my type. So I'm sure that if you guys are interested in dating some of the other characters in this game, and you can also have same-gender romances with a female character as well, which is super cool. But no, this relationship between Flynn and Danny was super sweet, and I kind of wish that we had a little bit more at the end, a chance to learn what exactly Danny did, because he never fully revealed it. It's still a major mystery. I am sure in realistically, Danny would have eventually told Flynn exactly what he did, but we never got to learn that, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. That's a little something from the story that I would have wanted to know. It would have been also, yeah, I'm still curious, like, who the thief... Brendon's pretty much out himself as the thief, so did Brendon also steal... Is it implied that Brendon stole the volleyball and the oil paints too? Is that, I guess, was he just doing that just to set up my theft? Maybe. I don't know. At any rate, it would have been cool to have had some sort of resolution, satisfying resolution with Brendon, but it wasn't meant to be. So anyway, thank you so much, Hannah, again, for suggesting this game. I did have fun with it, and I'm probably going to end up putting Danny up on my wall, Danny and Flynn up on my wall. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, love yourselves, love each other.